Day one of the draft is complete. The Blue Jackets have two new prospects, both on defense. We're going to be talking about them today and also taking a look at what might be ahead of us in day two of the draft today on Locked on Blue Jackets.
Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you stories, news, trials, tribulations, emotions, etc. of your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And we're going to be doing that today because there's two brand new Blue Jackets on the block. Or not on the block. That sounds like they're on the trading block already. There's two new Blue Jackets back in town. I'm mixing up my metaphors. It's fine. We're going to be talking about those today. First, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So if you're not watching on YouTube, then maybe you should be. Make sure you check out my immediate draft reactions to both David Jiricek and Denton Mateychuk over there. But we're going to talk about them here today. Now, we'll start off with David Jiricek. I'm thrilled that David Jiricek fell to 6th. The draft got really weird really fast, and I was really excited by that. I always root for chaos. Simon Nemec going 2nd overall, yes, I love it. Shane Wright dropping to 4th, Shane Wright playing with a chip on his shoulder is going to be so fun. Super excited for that. But David Jiricek, I genuinely didn't think he was going to be here at 6. So I had done all of my assumptions, all of my draft preparation, looking at, guys like Matt Savoy, guys like Cutter Gauthier, guys like Frank Nazar. None of those guys ended up being Blue Jackets because we got David Jiricek at 6. And yeah, like I say, I'm really excited. I think this kid is going to be a stud. He is probably Zach Werenski's defense partner for the next 10 years. We can hope. Maybe slightly less. But the scouting report on David Jiricek is really fun, really positive. Big, mobile defenseman, can play both ends of the ice. Put him on the penalty kill, put him on the power play, put him on even strength, give him as many minutes as you want. Apparently he's a real pain in the butt to play against as well, which is good. I think the Jackets needed a little bit of meanness, not too much. I don't know that they need to go out and get some 4th line goon, but a guy like Jiricek who's not afraid to throw his weight around, I think is exactly what the Blue Jackets need. Not that I think they got bullied this season. We're going to do an episode on that at some point because it really annoys me that there's this weird atmosphere around the Blue Jackets that they need some grit and some sandpaper and some meanness because they got bullied this year, because I don't think it's true, but that's not this episode. Jiricek is I can't say enough good things about David Jiricek. I am so happy that he is a Blue Jacket. I had him ranked 2nd on the list of players, overall. It was Shane Wright, and then it was him. So the fact that he's here at 6th is, again, just super incredible. He got injured this season, and so I think that was the big thing about Jiricek was he missed a lot of the season due to a knee injury at the World Juniors, and I think that made a lot of people wary. I think that's probably why Nemec went before him, but I'm not mad about that, not at all. I'm just really excited about this kid. 11 points in 29 games playing in the Czech League. He had 7 points in 17 games for the international, that's the under 20s, and the World Championships. He he's just really, really good and fun. In terms of things that he needs to improve on, there's not a lot, honestly. A lot of some of the scouting reports have talked a little bit about his skating. He's a really strong skater, but his acceleration, so his first kind of 2-3 strides, need help. His decision making also, but that I think is something that you put him into the Blue Jacket system and teach him those systems, and I think he's really, really going to flourish. He can be a top 2 defenseman on the Blue Jackets. I said in my immediate reaction last night that I think he could be a replacement for Seth Jones, and I stand by that. I want to see him and Zach Werenski glued to each other as soon as Jiricek makes his way over to North America. And honestly, I could see that happening as soon as this season. I think he could play in the NHL in October. I really do. Like, that might be a hot take. That might be a wild prediction, but I'm standing by it. So that's David Jiricek. Super, super excited. In a minute, we're going to talk about our other newest defense prospect, Denton Mateychuk, who I'm also very excited about. But first, I've got to tell you about BetOnline, because they are your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including Major League Baseball, NHL futures. They're already odds for who's going to win the Stanley Cup next year. They've got football there. They've got boxing. They've got UFC. They've got golf. They've got every kind of sport that you could imagine. They are your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And they remain the best spot for all your podcasts and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events. So head to the website today. Once again, that is BetOnline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. So let's talk Denton Mateychuk, who I very recently talked about with Joel Henderson over from Puck Preps. So let's talk about that, because there was a lot of not necessarily red flags in Mateychuk's scouting report that I got from Joel, but a lot of things that made me think, okay, this feels like a very Kekalainen-like pick. But talking to a couple of scouting guys, talking to some experts, one of them was like, if they've drafted him, they have a plan for him and his development, and he's going to be incredible. So that makes me super excited, super happy. Mateychuk is a very different defenseman to Jiricek. I think he probably projects as a middle pairing guy. I would love to see him with Vladislav Gavrikov. I think that would be a lot of fun. He's not huge. He's not going to throw his weight around, but he's got a lot of skill. People talk about like a modern defenseman a lot, and that's Mateychuk. He had 64 points in 65 games. He can run the power play if he needs to. I wouldn't necessarily put him on the penalty kill, but with Werenski, Jiricek, Gavrikov, and Beek, I think the penalty kill is looking pretty solid. And in terms of Mateychuk, I think if you pair him with, like I said, a guy like Vladislav Gavrikov, let him be a little bit more defensively responsible and just kind of let Mateychuk free to roam wherever he wants. And we continue our long-standing tradition of the Blue Jackets having only rovers and Vladislav Gavrikov. In terms of his, like, not downward, what's the word I want? In terms of the things he has to improve on, he needs to improve his decision making a little bit, I think. And again, that's something that I think a lot of young defensemen struggle with. I feel like he does a lot of things that work really well in the WHL where he plays for Moose Jaw, not necessarily the same, and won't necessarily work out the same way in the NHL. And I think that's something that's something we talked about a lot with Joel, actually, of is his game NHL adaptable? And honestly, I wasn't 100% sure, but now that Kekalainen has come out and drafted him, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe maybe they do have a plan. Maybe like this seems. I keep going back to what Sam McGilligan said, which was if they they drafted him for a reason. They have a plan for his development. So I'm putting my faith in Kekalainen. He so rarely steers us wrong in the draft, especially in the past few years. So again, super excited to look at Mateychuk's development. Probably, I talked about this last night in the immediate reaction. Probably a slower project than Jiricek. I don't see him playing in the NHL in October. I could see him maybe another year or two in Moose Jaw until he turns 20, and then a couple of years in the NHL to finish developing. I don't see him as an immediate option, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But he feels like a guy that is going to be part of that next wave that you start bringing in. Obviously, the Blue Jackets have got a lot of very young defensemen at the minute. They're going to get older. They're going to get better. And as kind of Zach Werenski starts to get a little bit older, starts to get closer to 30, that's when I could see Mateychuk kind of come in and really make an impact in this league. So I was surprised by the pick. I'm not mad about it, but I was very surprised because, like I said, it's a very Onyama Kekalainen-like pick. And I'm really interested to see where this goes. I'm super interested to see how Mateychuk continues to develop. And that's kind of my little scouting report on Mateychuk. In a minute, we're going to take a look ahead to today. We're going to go over which picks the Blue Jackets have. We're going to look at some guys that are still available, that might be available at 44th, which I believe is the Blue Jackets' next pick. That's all coming up next on Locked on Blue Jackets. Okay, let's talk today's draft. The Blue Jackets have a bunch of picks today. Their next pick is going to be at 44th, which is 12 picks into the second round, so about a third of the way through, which is pretty good. They then pick again at 96th. This originally belonged to Tampa Bay. We got this from the David Savard trade. There was it's a very confusing everything, but so we got our third round pick, we got a fourth round pick, and then we have a seventh round pick. So there's going to be 4 more baby Blue Jackets coming in the next little while. It should be fun. The 44th pick, I think, is going to be really intriguing. There's a bunch of guys that are still on the board that I did not think would be there. And then, there's some names like Lane Hudson, for example, is a name that I think Blue Jackets fans should keep an eye on. Owen Beck is a guy that I think Blue Jackets fans should keep an eye on. There's so many. Again, this draft has been super weird. I don't understand. I don't understand what is going on. After Shane Wright dropped to 4th, I was fully prepared for this to be like just crazy. Just pulling up a list of players to make sure I haven't forgotten anyone that could still be there. Jagger Furcus is another name that I think is really intriguing. There's a guy called Kallio Delius as well, who I did a profile on. Everyone's favorite name, Gleb Trikazov, is still available. There's a ton of guys that are still available for the Blue Jackets that I think is a really good option. Obviously, a lot can change in the next 12 picks, but as we've discovered, they kind of do what they want. And every team has kind of done what they want. Like, the fact that Brad Lambert made it all the way to 30th is bonkers. Like, again, he was a guy that I was like, the Blue Jackets should take at 12th. I'm happy that Mateychuk went at 12, but I was like, man, we could have had Nazar or Lambert. They were both available, and they both went to different teams. But that's fine. That's how the draft goes. You can't have every prospect that you like, because that's not how it works. Otherwise, I would have like 17 new children right now. But yeah, the draft. I'm not as excited about today as I was yesterday. Obviously, the first round is more exciting. It's more flashy, but I think this is a chance for Kekalainen to really shine and really pick up some guys that maybe haven't had as much attention. And maybe, I feel like, last year we got Stanislav Svozil at like 69th overall, which phenomenal that he dropped that far. And I could see the Blue Jackets going out and getting someone else that has kind of fallen through the cracks thus far. So that's kind of my feelings about the draft today. We may have a bonus episode tomorrow where we talk about today's draft if I can figure out my schedule. But I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. Tons of information on Jiricek and Mateychuk is going to be over on the Twitter. I've been retweeting scouting reports, my own draft profiles that I did with Sam McGilligan and Joel Henderson. Just a ton of stuff about the newest Blue Jackets are over on the Twitter, so make sure you go check that out. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, we're going to do a mailbag on Monday, I think, about the draft, about some new contract signings, about all these kind of things. We'll do a mailbag Monday, so if you have questions for that, email them to lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And thank you once again for making this your first listen of the day every day. I got a ton of traction last night, and I'm having a blast doing this draft coverage. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. So thank you for listening, watching, subscribing, liking, commenting, etc. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.